Welcome back to the Crypto World channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is officially reclaiming this key level on the price chart, at least in the short term, as we now have more liquidity building just above the price of Bitcoin, which we need to pay attention to, while Ethereum is getting extremely close to breaking out from this new price pattern, setting up new price targets that I'll be talking about in just a moment, alongside the price of Chainlink now continuing to bounce from this critical level on the price chart. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, the super trendy indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. And on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, we still have a possible bearish divergence to watch out for, but is not currently confirmed. And of course, on this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, we're still losing bullish momentum in the shorter term, but still overall looking more bullish than bearish, because despite the fact that we're losing a bit of bullish momentum, we've not yet confirmed any new bearish crossover or significant bearish momentum. We're just cooling off a little bit during the larger bull market. And of course, on this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, technically speaking, this cup and handle pattern, a bullish price pattern with a bullish price target, is technically still in play. It's still currently active despite the current short-term pause or short-term cool-off, because this would only invalidate the price target if we see a confirmed break with candle closes back below this level right here, which is sitting at around 110,000. And so obviously here on the 3-day time frame and the weekly time frame, nothing's really changed over the last one day. We're still within a larger bull market, but just slowing down a little bit in the immediate short term. And on the daily Bitcoin price chart, obviously the price is still basically just consolidating sideways in still a bit of a sideways price range, as we could see, but still underneath a significant area of resistance, sitting at approximately 120,000 to 123,000. So in the low 120k area, we have a lot of resistance to continue to pay attention to. And it is worth pointing out, which I also mentioned in my last video just yesterday, that the daily Bitcoin RSI is obviously starting to trend in the bearish direction, which at least in the shorter term is a sign of weakness, telling us that we're losing a bit of strength, losing some bullish momentum, at least for now. Obviously, this does not mean that the larger bull market is over. We're still in a larger bull market, but just for now, once again, in the shorter term, we are losing that bullish momentum. And the last time we saw something similar to what we're seeing right now in the daily Bitcoin RSI was near the end of May, entering into early June. And of course, during that period in the market, we did see a bit of a pullback, a bit of a cool off, mostly also some choppy sideways price action after a bit more pullbacks in the short term, but overall still remaining within that much larger bull market, as we could see. And so that is still the situation on the daily time frame. And if we're taking a look at the 4-hour Bitcoin chart, obviously what has just changed over the last one day after the latest break to the downside below this short-term area of support, we've now seen multiple candle closes on the 4-hour time frame back above this previous area of support, which temporarily was acting as some resistance here. Obviously, we saw one retest and one red candle here, one short-term rejection, but then ultimately came back up for another test, and then of course broke out back above this area, which is good to see. At least in the short term, we're breaking back into this previous sideways price range. And so now that the price is back in this sideways price range that we were previously in over the last 1 to 2 weeks, obviously I'd now once again expect support in this area in between 116,000 to 117,000. So if we see yet another short-term pullback for whatever reason, continue to expect support around there. And technically speaking, the price structure is still currently looking a little bit more bearish than it is bullish, at least when we're talking about the short-term price structure. Remember, know the difference between the different time frames. On the larger time frames, looking at the bigger picture, we're still within a much larger bull market, and this pullback here on the 4-hour time frame is barely visible at all on the weekly time frame. And so obviously, once again, I'm still bullish on the larger time frames, but in the immediate short term, if we're simply looking at the highs and the lows, we're forming lower highs and lower lows, at least as of right now. That's the current situation, which is technically a shorter term bearish trend or short term bearish price structure, showing some weakness and basically just cooling off a little bit after that previous major bullish move, potentially resetting some of these price oscillators, getting ready for the next major move, maybe over the next few weeks or so. And when it comes to short term resistance to watch out for, now that we're breaking back into this sideways price range, I would expect a lot of resistance starting at close to 120,000. And once again, we have really this large area of resistance in between 120,000 to 123,000, but especially in between 120k to 121k. In that area right there, that's the main area of resistance that I would now be focusing on. And it's possible we could also find a bit of short-term resistance around these highs right here at approximately 119.3k to 119.4k, somewhere around there. We could also find some short-term resistance. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can see that over the last couple of days, obviously we took out some downside liquidity here, but we still have a little bit of liquidity building to the downside at around 114,500 approximately. But with that being said, the main level of liquidity, at least for now in the shorter term on the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, is building at around close to 120,000 and slightly above 120,000. So more specifically around 120.3k to 120.5k is the main price target, at least in the short term, at least based on the Bitcoin liquidation heat map. And so now that the price of Bitcoin is back above this area, which was definitely important to see here in the short term, now that we're back above this area in between 116,000 to 117,000, it's actually much more likely we could now head a little bit higher, closer towards that 120k level, to take out maybe some liquidity around there as we approach this resistance. So keep in mind now, it's increased the probability that we could now see a little bit more of a relief back up towards that short-term resistance now that we've broken back out, back above this area here. But remember, whatever happens here on the 4-hour time frame, whether we see either another retest of this support or ultimately play out the slightly more likely scenario of heading up towards that liquidity and then maybe finding some resistance closer towards 120,000, whatever happens here in the short term, ultimately we're still in a bit more of a cool-off phase in the market, most likely going to last for the next 1 or 2 weeks as a likely scenario, at least based on what we're seeing on the daily time frame, and also here in the momentum in the MACD indicator on the 3-day time frame, showing a lack in bullish momentum, at least in the shorter term, just cooling off at least for now. But then once again, considering we're still within a much larger bull market, it's likely that maybe at some point in a couple of weeks from now, it is possible we could see another all-time high breakout at some point soon enough. But just in the next few days or so, once again, it is quite likely we could remain somewhat in this sideways price range, maybe see another test of this resistance, but still not necessarily seeing an all-time high breakout, at least for the next few days or weeks. And potentially getting ready for that next major move in the larger bull market, I may be looking to accumulate more of a Bitcoin long position, which when I do that, or if I do that, I will be sharing that very transparently here on the channel. So of course, make sure you subscribe to this channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos where I will be sharing my trading strategies and also my trading strategies potentially with this upcoming Ethereum move, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But obviously, if you want to actually take these trades in the price of any crypto, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange in order to actually trade crypto. And personally, I'm taking a lot of my crypto trades over on BTNX, so I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading and deposit bonuses. For example, up to $40,000 in trading bonuses. And also, if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus into your BTNX account. But those bonuses are only available if you use the link below this video to actually make your BTNX account. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, or preparing to take the next trading opportunity, you might as well get set up ready to go using that first link below this video to BTNX to take advantage of these major bonuses here. And in case you're wondering, BTNX is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want BTNX as an exchange, there's also 2bit as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page where you can also claim some massive bonuses. For example, up to $50,000 in trading bonuses, and also a $30 sign-up bonus and a 20% deposit rebate up to a max of 200 USDT. So for example, if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus into your 2bit account. But once again, only if you use that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, definitely check this out. Once again, first and second link below this video. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin dominance chart, and at least for now, this larger bearish divergence on the 3-day Bitcoin dominance chart is technically still active, which is obviously good news for the altcoin market in general. And now, of course, we can see the occasional bounce while this plays out. For example, a bounce from this level of support right here, or bouncing from oversold signals here in the 3-day RSI. But at least for now, considering we've not confirmed any invalidation signal to invalidate this bearish divergence, with this still active, still affecting the Bitcoin dominance. Once again, if the Bitcoin dominance is bearish, in case you're new to all of this, in other words, that's basically an altcoin season. That means altcoins altcoins are outperforming whatever Bitcoin is doing on average. And so at least for now, that is still the situation and could likely continue to be the situation, at least for the coming weeks, based on this chart right here once again. And if we're taking a look at the 3-day Ethereum price chart, right now Ethereum is potentially coming in for another test of this very significant area of resistance, still sitting in between around 3.9k to 4.1k. And so obviously, as I've already been saying over the last couple of weeks, expect a lot of resistance, a lot of struggle around this area on the price chart, and that's already pretty much exactly where the price has started to struggle at. Obviously, after this major bullish move, we hit almost exactly 3.9k before we started to see a short-term rejection and a bit of struggle, at least for now. But if we can ultimately at some point break out above this area with candle closes above, ideally around 4,000 to 4.1k, and then actually holding above this area, in that situation, obviously that would be extremely bullish. And honestly, I would expect a run towards all-time highs for Ethereum. I'm talking about the high $4,000 area, around 4.8k, 4.9k, and possibly $5,000 plus, if we first break out above this area and actually hold above this area. But in the meantime, obviously, continue to expect struggle around this area, considering it is very strong resistance. But if we ultimately break out above the area once again, that could potentially be the next significant trading opportunity where, at least for me, I'll be looking to potentially take a major trade towards the upside for the price of Ethereum if we first break out above this major resistance. And if we're taking a look at this daily Ethereum price chart, when it comes to short-term support and resistance, once again, expect a lot of resistance closer towards the high $3,000 area and closer towards 4,000. And in terms of support, we have a lot of support at close to 3.5k and also in between 3.2k to 3.3k if the price were to actually get back down there. But for now, the support is at around 3.5k as the immediate support to pay attention to. And remember, even if we play out a bit more of a sideways consolidation or even a slight pullback, I'm not saying we're going to see a pullback. I'm just saying if that were to happen, technically the larger trends, the larger price structure is still currently bullish. We're still forming significant higher lows and higher highs. So it's very normal to see just a little bit of a cool off here, especially as we are running into significant resistance just in the shorter term here during a larger bullish trend or larger bull market. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, taking a look at the 2-hour Ethereum price chart, as of recording this video, the price of ETH is now forming a new price pattern known as an ascending triangle pattern with relatively horizontal resistance and an ascending line of support, higher lows and relatively flat highs, as we could see. And statistically speaking, an ascending triangle pattern is slightly more likely to break out towards the upside than it is towards the downside. So of course, sometimes every now and again, an ascending triangle pattern can break to the downside, but that's simply the less likely scenario, because essentially this price structure signifies basically stagnant sell pressure. So the sellers are not really gaining momentum, they're just staying at the same level on the price chart, whereas the buyers are gaining momentum. We're seeing increased buying, as we could see here, as we're seeing higher lows. Buyers are not waiting for these lower levels, they're buying at slightly higher prices on each of these dips, while the sellers are basically staying at the same level. And so that's actually what this price structure technically means, and that's why usually an ascending triangle pattern breaks up towards the upside. Once again, sometimes every now and again it can break to the downside, but usually it breaks out towards the upside due to that type of price structure, with basically sellers starting to run out, basically not enough sellers at this certain price level, while the buyers are actually increasing, ultimately pushing through all of the sellers. But as always, when it comes to confirming a breakout like this, or confirming a price target, or confirming a new trading plan, we have to ultimately wait for a confirmation signal. And of course, the confirmation signal I'll be watching out for would be a confirmed candle close either above this resistance or below this support. And in case you're wondering, this line of support is sitting at approximately 3670 to 3680, so just below 3.7k, and this line of resistance is currently sitting at around 3760, so at just below 3.8k. And if we're measuring out the technical price target for this ascending triangle pattern, if we actually break below this line of support and fail to break out above this resistance, in that situation, that would set up a short-term bearish price target at just under 3.5k, around 3480. But remember, we have a lot of support at approximately 3.5k there, so it's possible possible it would bounce before hitting that price target. But remember, that would only come into play if we break below this line of support here for the triangle pattern. But remember, an ascending triangle pattern is slightly more likely to break out towards the bullish direction. But in order to actually confirm that bullish price target, remember, we need to first confirm candle closes above this line of resistance that I just mentioned. And in that situation, that would set up a bullish price target at around 39.70. So basically just under 4,000. And so if we're measuring out that move from the point of the breakout here to that price target, that's roughly around a 5 to 6% move towards the upside. And so an example of a potential trading strategy, as always, not financial advice, but let's just say if we confirm candle closes above this line of resistance, which once we see that, if we see that, then that would confirm this price target in play, confirming the pattern right here, confirming the trading strategy. In that situation, that could be a signal to open a long position. As always, not financial advice, but if we were to long this move after we first confirm the breakout towards the price target and then take profits closer towards the price target, personally, I like to take profits just before the price target in case we don't exactly hit the target. Then of course, in that situation, this is the period in the market, the space in the price chart right here where we would profit from that move. And then obviously, if we never actually confirm the breakout above this line right here for the triangle pattern, then this price target never comes into play, which means we never actually open a long position to begin with if we do not confirm the breakout here. And on the other hand, if we fail to confirm the breakout and ultimately confirm candle closes below this line of support, once again, in that situation, that would set up that bearish price target and we could possibly short that move towards that bearish price target. And in that situation, I would look to take some profits, especially closer towards around 3,500 if we were to say short Ethereum. But once again, not financial advice. I'm just pointing out potential trading strategies here. And as always, if we break out or break one of these levels right here and then break back inside the triangle pattern after first breaking out of the triangle pattern, that would invalidate the pattern and invalidate the trade altogether, invalidate the price target. And as always, it's worth pointing out other points of support and resistance. So like I just said earlier, if we break below this line of support, setting up that bearish price target, we have a lot of support at close to 3.5k and just above 3.5k, which means the price could likely bounce before even hitting that bearish price target if we first break below this ascending line of support. And then on the other hand, if we break out here, setting up that bullish price target at just under 4,000, remember we have significant resistance starting at around 3.9k going up towards around 4.1k, which means really anywhere in that price range, the price could start to struggle or possibly reject from that area. And so obviously I'd be somewhat careful opening a long position here, even if we confirm this breakout. Maybe we long a slight little move, but then obviously start to take profits most likely well before the price target here if we're just trading this short-term breakout here, considering the major resistance just above the price. As always, not financial advice. I'm just pointing out what is on the price chart and potential trading strategies based around these possible movements. And remember, if you want to actually take these trades for yourself in the price of any crypto, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And once again, as I said earlier, use the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses, which is basically free money to trade with. So you might as well do it if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, using the links below this video to take advantage of those major bonuses over on those exchanges. But with that being said, taking a look at Solana on the 2-day time frame, and at least for now, Solana is still struggling just underneath this major area of resistance, the golden pocket area of resistance, still sitting in between around 191 to 199. So roughly 190 to 200 acting as major resistance. And as for support to watch out for, we do have a lot of support at roughly $180 and more support at around 167. And at least for now, obviously, we've not yet really confirmed candle closes back below 180. So we're still looking at that level for support. And in terms of the larger trend, obviously, we're technically still within a larger bullish trend, forming higher lows and higher highs, at least as of right now, even if we were to see little short-term pullbacks along the way during that bullish trend. And if we eventually confirm a breakout with candle closes above around $200 and actually holding above that level, ideally using that as new support, in that situation, the next major target towards the upside would be sitting at around $230 as the next Fibonacci level. And if we're taking a look at the shorter term on the 2-hour time frame, we can now pretty much safely say that this short-term bearish divergence is finally over, because we now have some invalidation signals that actually invalidate this bearish divergence. For example, a breakout above this line right here in the RSI, and also some higher lows and higher highs finally starting to confirm here in the 2-hour Solana RSI. And so this essentially means that we can finally start to see a little bit more of a short-term bullish relief, not necessarily significant bullish price action straight away. We could take a little bit more time before building more bullish momentum. But overall, once again, don't rely on this bearish divergence any longer. It's already played out very nicely over the last half a week or so, but it's now basically over. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, we're still using roughly $3 as very significant support for the price of XRP, and the next significant point of resistance based on these Fibonacci extension levels, based on the 2618 Fibonacci extension level, is sitting at around $4.60 to $4.70. But obviously for now, we are experiencing a bit of a short-term cool-off, a short-term pullback with a lot of the other crypto market, obviously. But technically speaking, the larger price structure is still pointing in the bullish direction. We're still forming significant higher lows and higher highs, and we're still relatively close towards all-time highs, obviously, here on the weekly time frame. So technically, the larger trend is still currently bullish, but of course, we are forming a significant bearish divergence, which is something to watch out for on the weekly XRP price chart, but at least for now, it's not yet confirmed. And if we're taking a look at the daily XRP price chart, obviously, at least for now, and as I've already been saying over the last half a week or so, we recently saw a pullback back below this level on the price chart at around $3.40, which temporarily was acting as support at around $3.30 to $3.40. And so I'd now expect resistance around that area again, once again, in between $3.30 to $3.40, expect resistance around there, and also more resistance at closer towards $3.60 if the price can ultimately get back up there. And as for support, I would expect a lot of important support for the price of XRP in between around $2.90 to $3. And so far, that's pretty much exactly where the price has bounced from in this recent pullback here, as we could see. And so overall, the price is in a bit of a sideways price range, cooling off a little bit now after a lot of volatility over the last 1 to 2 weeks. Obviously, a major bullish move and then that major pullback very quickly. But now I would expect the price to basically just chill out a little bit, cool off a little bit, maybe play out a bit of a sideways consolidation in this larger range here before getting ready for that next major move. But at least in the short term, for the next few days, that is what I continue to expect, the price to remain somewhat range bound, at least for now. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, Chainlink is still currently holding and actually starting to bounce from this key area on the price chart based on previous significant resistance, now acting as new support, sitting in between around $17.50 to $18. And so obviously, at least in the shorter term, this is very good to see for the price of Chainlink, because if on the other hand, we confirmed candle closes on the daily time frame back below $17.50 and actually failed to get back above that area, in that situation, at least for the following days or weeks, that would be very bad news for the price of Chainlink in the shorter term. And in that situation, would likely see roughly a $2 drop towards the downside, down towards roughly $15.50 as the next significant level of support, the next major price target. But once again, only if we first confirm to break with candle closes below $17.50. But for now, we're still holding above that area, which once again is good to see in the short term. And so now that we're still holding above this key area right here at roughly $17.50 to $18, in that situation, of course, if we were to see a little bit more of a bounce here, expect a lot of resistance. As I've already been saying since before this perfect rejection, expect a lot of resistance in between around $20 to $21. And obviously, the moment we entered slightly into that area just above $20, that's exactly where the price rejected from. And so continue to expect a lot of support at the exact level I've already been talking about, and a lot of resistance at the exact level I've already been talking about, obviously. And the larger trend is technically still bullish, despite seeing short-term pullbacks along the way. Technically, it was still within, once again, a larger bullish trend, a longer-term bullish trend. And if we're taking a look at the shorter term, it's now pretty much safe to say that this short-term bearish divergence is finally coming to an end. We're starting to form some slight higher lows and higher highs in the 4-hour Chainlink RSI, which is now the first invalidation signal for this bearish divergence, to invalidate the bearish divergence. And so Chainlink could likely follow, for example, Solana or Ethereum, basically playing out these slight little short-term bullish reliefs as of right now, basically ending this previous bearish divergence after that latest pullback. So honestly, I'll not be surprised if over the next couple of days, we play out either just a very slight bullish relief, or maybe just a little bit more choppy sideways price action, holding above this very significant support, at least for the next few days, but still somewhat lacking bullish momentum, at least in the shorter term. And so those are my exact predictions for Chainlink and the rest of the major altcoins out there, and of course Bitcoin. And as always, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto no matter what the price is doing, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit during bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit during choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.